A heart of stones too hard to cry. A mind that's closed won't wonder why. A foolish man is deaf and blind. A coward always stays in line. But a soul that prostrates on its face with trembling heart, seeking God's grace, won't hide from truth, can't hide the pain. Hussein, 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 Hussein. I was born in Buffalo, New York in 1948. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. My mother and father were really, really close. They came from the same general place back in Arkansas somewhere. They made sure that we had a real strong religious upbringing. We were raised as Catholics. I went to Catholic school. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. For me, religion meant a lot because I was really sick when I was a kid. I had asthma really, really bad. And because of that, I had brushes with death. And not only that, when I was 7, because it was the year I took my first communion, a classmate was hit by a truck and killed. On the way from school was the funeral home, and I stopped in to view his body as a 7-year-old. And you could see the tire marks across his face. I never will forget it. The idea of death was very, very real to me. I knew that one day I was going to die, MashaAllah. So being taught catechism as a Catholic, the thing that I wanted to do, I wanted to be on the side of the angels. I think that the primary thing that impacted upon my life was my father, MashaAllah. I mean, he taught us primarily that he taught us reason. That was his primary thing. I'm sending you to this Catholic school and you have sermons on the daily basis. I want to know what those sermons said. That's what he taught us, and to be reasonable, that you have to understand, MashaAllah. No, there's nothing worse than an educated fool. That's what he would try to do. And not only that, he taught us how not to be a gopher. A gopher is a person that'll go for anything, MashaAllah. Gullible, somebody who was gullible. If Islam taught me anything, that is what Islam taught me. Because I have a huge ego. You know, my parents have huge egos. My mother was a classical pianist. My father was a classical singer. You know, he sung for the Buffalo Schola Cantorum, MashaAllah, which is the chorale for the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. To have a colossal ego and to not recognize Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, the praise to him, Lord of the worlds, is damning. And that was the thing that cooled my jets about Islam, was what Islam taught me, MashaAllah. That, okay, yeah, you did all this and you did all that and blah, 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 blah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Because if it wasn't for the grace and mercy of Allah, you wouldn't have done anything, MashaAllah. The Caliph chose vile tricks and lies. Hussein chose death, not compromise. This prophet's son would not bow down, preferring death to being bound to evil hymns, satanic son. So with his death, the Imam won. Islam's loss was Islam's gain. Hussein, 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 Hussein. My journalism instructor, Margaret Long, who was like a pioneer in journalism, she was one of the first really heavy female journalists. I went to her and told her, I'm quitting, I got to get out of here. She said, well, you need to take off a little while. What do you want to do? I said, I'd like to get a job as a reporter, because I'd been writing as a professional before. So I got a job working at New York Post. She got me the job. And that ended up being a complete disaster because I guess I didn't know my place, you see, you know. The first day I got there in New York City, there were 3 baby killings. That's the kind of stuff that goes on in a great metropolitan place like New York City. There were 3 baby killers. Naturally, I was assigned to the black babies that were killed. And in fact, there was 3 of them that died. They were our brothers and sisters, MashaAllah. And I went and I interviewed the people, and lo and behold, come to find out after 3 days of interviewing them, and they were mad because it took me that long, it come to find out that they were not killed. They died of natural causes. They had a disease, and the city had charged the parents with neglect and had them arrested, mainly because the chief of the police, whose name was Hogan at that time, didn't do the work that they were supposed to do. We did the work, the reporters did the work, and found out what they really died of, a rare disease. And the parents were so grieved by it, they actually thought that they were responsible, because they thought that they were responsible for the disease, you know. So we write this article where it's going to be on the front page of the New York Post. That was before the Post became a rag. So we thought that was going to happen, but it wasn't. It was buried something like 5 days later, because we had exposed Chief Hogan on page 60-something. At the same time that was going on, I was writing a white paper on my own about the Biafran Civil War. Actually, it was the Nigerian Civil War. It was called here the Biafran Conflict. Now, I didn't know anything about it except what I saw on television. I went and got a whole lot of quotes from people in Columbia and NYU, you know, real professors. And what the thing was really about was that great big pool of oil that was in the South. So I'm writing this stuff up. I'm thinking I'm going to be 21 years old. I'm getting a Pulitzer for this, because there's never been anything written on it that I could find, you know. After I submitted it to the Post, which was a 3-part white paper, I was fired, straight up, right then and there. I was fired. And the girl that had helped me expose Hogan was sent to Egypt. MashaAllah. Eventually, I went back home. And I went back home realizing that what I wanted to do all my life, I really didn't want to do anymore. I did not want to be a reporter, you know, anymore. I did not want to do that. So I'm trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and my mother is all upset because my sister had become a Muslim, you know, and she's beside herself. So they sent me down there to talk some sense into my sister. And what happened is that they ended up talking sense into me. My brother-in-law, I asked him, look, everything that you're talking about is extraordinary to me, especially this whole idea that God is not embodied. There's no such thing as an embodied God. And he said, well, of course, Jesus was a prophet, and that there has been prophets that have been sent from the beginning, except that people forget about the prophets, what they taught, and sometimes they deify them. And I thought, ding, that's it, MashaAllah. So I asked another question about God, and they recited, Kul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Now, even before he translated it, I knew that this was the truth. I could feel it. MashaAllah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, MashaAllah. You know, say he, Allah, is one, upon on whom all depends. He begets not, neither is he begotten, and there is none like unto him. And by that time, tears all in my eyes and everything, and I'm thinking, good Lord, what am I going to tell my mother? She's going to be. Oh, what a brave and selfless deed to give up life for Islam's creed, to sacrifice both friend and kin, to show the world Islam from sin. Are you confused? Which side is right? How would you stand if called to fight? Are you aware just who was slain? Hussein, 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 the leader of the garden's youth, was murdered by a drunk uncouth. Understand the scene, my friend, an angel murdered by a jinn who held the Ummah's reins, a womanizer half insane, condemned to death, the chaste Hussein, 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 Hussein. They made me think about it for a while, and I thought about it for about a month. And to be perfectly honest, I tried to figure out a way out of it because, well, like I said, you know, my road was set. Alhamdulillah, I was on the fast track. And I knew that if I became Muslim, my life was going to be very, very difficult because I didn't know anything about this religion. And the more I delved into it, the more I saw that it was vast, you know, and this was going to take time, that there was no course that I could take. I'd have to do this all on my own. And why couldn't I just, you know, I'm a good person, I don't need to do that. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there was no way. It was God talking to me. And if I turned my back on this, I would be forever damned, MashaAllah. The thing that I saw within my soul, the marafah that I saw, was that I was practically already in hell. You know, I'm worshiping Jesus. And worse than that, I'm worshiping money. You know, I'm going to do this for money. I don't care. You know, I want to make a lot of money, mashallah. I want to be rich and powerful. And Islam brought back my ethical training to make me realize that I was way, 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 way stray. My conscience made it very, very clear that I was of that ilk, because the things that I was getting ready to go back, and even though I know that it would take a kind of hypocrisy, I was going to go back into journalism, get my degree, maybe write copy for some kind of, you know, people at advertising company or something like that, and then go into politics, which I already knew was corrupt. But and when I was in high school, I was a boy senator 2 years in a row, MashaAllah. So like I said, I was on a fast track for that. But Islam made me realize that I was submitting to something less than submitting to God. I didn't want to see that I was submitting to the devil. I did not want to see that. A Nimrod in Islamic guise, a whore in veils, truth mixed with lies, an ummah fooled by sleight of hand. One raised his voice, one dared to stand, and Abraham who chose the flames, rejecting falsehoods, kingly claims, and Abel who opposed Cain. Hussein, 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 Hussein. I think that the majority of the people come into the religion primarily because they don't believe that Jesus is God, or they no longer are agnostics, and they see that what Islam, there's no contradiction within the Quran. That's just straightforward. God is the infinite one. He is the eternal one. There's no mysticism in that. That is just straightforward, mashallah. He doesn't beget. He is not begotten. He's neither father, mother, son, daughter, whatever, mashallah. And he has no kufu. In other words, there's none like him that he could marry anyway. I mean, who could it doesn't make sense. This does make sense. He is unique. It's not just one. He is unique. And that is what makes it obvious. What makes it obvious about Prophet Muhammad is that there's never been a man like Prophet Muhammad since. MashaAllah. Even Ali alayhi salam was not Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Just like Hussein was not Ali. Hassan was not Ali. They said so as much. MashaAllah. So I spent most of my time for 10 years studying Prophet Sirah. I read practically all of them that were in English, MashaAllah, and studied them, MashaAllah, until I understood his mission, MashaAllah. I didn't know about the Ali part because I didn't know about the Ahlulbayt at that time. That came to me later, MashaAllah, between 30 and 35, when I met Sayyid Masum Abidi. MashaAllah. Once I met Sayyid Masum Abidi, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, and learned that Imam Ali alayhi salam was literally cheated out of what he his rightful position. And that's when I started recognizing the Ahlulbayt, alhamdulillah. It was the year that the embassy was taken, MashaAllah. So the reporters were all going crazy, you know. These Iranis took our embassy and they're horrible people and blah, blah, blah. They got all our people, holding them as hostage. And I'm looking at this for the first time. I'm trying to find out what's going on because I didn't care anything about the news. But I was interested in this, and I'm wondering, what's the problem? Because nobody was killed, MashaAllah. They didn't look like they were doing hardly anything to these people except talking about, give us our money back and we'll give you these people. Because America was holding several $1 billion of the Iranian money. So I was writing all these pamphlets, and handing them out on campus until they kicked me off campus. They wouldn't let me on campus, which I thought was extraordinarily ridiculous because, I know these guys who are like drug dealers that are on campus handing out drugs. La, 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 la. They're letting drug dealers on campus and they won't let pamphleteers on campus. La, la, la. So that's ridiculous. So one day, the leader of the MSA introduced Abidi to me at one of the Jumas, MashaAllah. Abidi came up to me crying, literally. Literally bawling, MashaAllah, because of what I was doing. And I didn't think it was a big thing. I was just handing out pamphlets, for God's sake, And he was like, this is what you're doing, a great noble service for, the Ahlulbayt and the Islamic Revolution. And I'm saying, I'm not doing anything because I'm not taking sides. I'm saying that what we should do is that we should research this before we take any sides. I don't know what's going on. I never heard of these people before, MashaAllah. And so he invited me to his home. Now I've been hanging out with these people for years, and this is the only one that ever invited me to his house, MashaAllah. I'm this 6 foot, 220 pound African-American soldier that he invites to his house, MashaAllah. Now, I'm thinking, who is this guy? Because he is not like these other people, MashaAllah, that come from the East, MashaAllah. And we get to talking and arguing and talking and arguing. And so I don't even remember the arguments that we were having, but we just were having friendly man-to-man arguments, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And one day I said, listen, MashaAllah, you are a Shia, and I am not. But what I want to know is what is this about Imam Ali, And I don't even think I said Imam at the time. What is this about Ali ibn Abi Talib? I know that he is the hero in every aspect of Islam. I know this because of my studies. I've studied Prophet Muhammad for over 10 years. So I know the history of Prophet Muhammad. What happened to him? How come he disappears from the history after Prophet's death. All of a sudden, Khalid bin Walid, of all people, is now the sword of Allah. What happened to Ali ibn Abi Talib? And he didn't want to tell me. He thought that, I really don't want to go into this right now. It may hurt your feelings. It could ruin our friendship, blah, 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 blah. I said, what? Look, man, I'm not fragile. All I want to know is the truth. Alhamdulillah. And that's the only thing that I believe in anyway. MashaAllah. So he told me the whole story right then and there. And I was like, now I know, you dig. Now I know, alhamdulillah, because I didn't know about Saqifa. I didn't know about what happened to Fatima Zahra in her house, mashallah. I didn't know about them putting hands on Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. I didn't know about how Umar came into power. I didn't know about how Uthman came into power. And that's how I came to understand. The Sunnis that had adopted me hated me now. I mean, there was one brother who was a Hafiz, and I used to go over his house. And as a Hafiz, he recites so much Quran on a daily basis, mashallah. And this is what I started doing the same thing, mashallah, alhamdulillah. After I became Shia, he didn't want to have anything to do with me. It was like I had leprosy or something, you dig. I thought it was ridiculous. I was arguing with him. I said, this is totally absurd. What is the difference? I mean, it's just a matter of history. I said, well, how did you come? We were arguing heatedly at his house. How did you come to this? He said, my mother taught me this. I said, well, your mother taught you wrong. And he thought, it was like, wow, maybe my mother did teach me wrong. And just as I'm starting to make the argument, the phone rang, puff, and he lost it. And I never was able to get it back. He wouldn't let me in his house again after that. At first, we established we prayed in a little cottage, mashallah. This is where where the MSA prayed. When we started praying there and people started coming there, mashallah, and Abidi was leading. This is right after, remember, this is right after the culmination of the revolution. So you had maybe 10, 15 people coming for Fajr, 30, 40 people coming for Maghrib and Zohar and Asr, and maybe 60 people coming for Maghrib and Isha. It disturbed the sensitivities of many of the more radical Sunnis. So the leader of the MSA wrote his people in Saudi Arabia, who in turn sent a Saudi priest with a $500,000 check. MashaAllah, 500,000, in those days, $500,000 check, so that they could buy a big old mansion. Really wasn't a big mansion. It was like a modern mini mansion, MashaAllah, but very well built, beautiful place. It's still there on Oleo Place, MashaAllah. And they locked us out, straight up. In the meantime, the university, they didn't lock us out of the cottage, but what they did is that they allowed the Chinese to come in there and dance on the place where we were praying. That didn't stop us either. So you know what they did? They tore the whole thing down. Literally, they literally demolished it. We got a gun with no firing pin, mashallah. We have everything that we need. The Shias of Ali ibn Abi Talib. MashaAllah, we have an Islamic revolution that is being protected, obviously, by Allah, MashaAllah. We have some of the greatest scholars in the world, not just jurists, but philosophers on the planet. Some of the greatest poets in the world, MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, ya Rabbil Alameen. We have so much money that it's ridiculous. Allah, la ilaha wahdahu la sharika lah. We got the gun, but we ain't got the firing pin. So all that sucker does is click, click, click. No boom. Why? It's because we're not bound together in worship like we're supposed to be. I believe that. If we were bound together in worship like we were supposed to be, I believe this light would just rise on the horizon and that the people of the Western world would be able to see clearly. Then it would be up to them whether they're going to turn towards the truth or not, MashaAllah. But as long as we're not presenting our most sellable factor, you know, the Salah in Jama'ah is the most sellable factor for anybody that believes. It's got to be. Because the believers are what? The believers are lovers only to one another, MashaAllah. How am I going to love you and I don't want to see you every day? For Fajr and Maghrib and Isha, at least Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha, we could come together. And in the Western world, you're free to do this and nobody's stopping you from moving. Come together. You're always talking about unity. Unity this, unity that, and unity other. Unity of the spirit, unity of the soul, unity of your prayer. You know, like the angels bowing and prostrating when Allah said to bow. You all are doing this every morning. Rising from the little death called sleep, MashaAllah, coming together. You know, have sleep, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. You know, loving each other. You know, really getting the chance to love one another. MashaAllah. That's what I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put me on this planet for. This is the big problem, MashaAllah. So for me, this is what I've tried to do in the last 35 years since I've left Hawaii, MashaAllah, to try to promote this concept while I'm doing my writings. I mean, all of my writings are saying the same thing, MashaAllah, and they all go back to the fact that what we're supposed to be trying to do, MashaAllah, is come together to worship Allah and then rise, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That's what I believe.
It's the missing piece. It really is. I do want to tell you one story. One of my nephews, and I may be getting this story wrong. Maybe I should ask him for it, but I'll just tell you because I remember it this way, so it's always my story. He used to wear the kufi and the thobe, and he would go to the store, and they said this Jew approached him, had the yarmulke on, and he told him, you know what? We're never going to be afraid of you guys until you pray Fajr like you pray Jummah. And he told us that. And I'm saying they even know the spiritual currency of praying in Jama'ah, especially Fajr. And if you can, Maghrib and Isha, why can't you? You know, everybody can eat, they can have a potluck, whatever. Share resources, get to know each other, the kids see each other. It's the missing piece. It's the part that I think would help the Muslims get out of the quagmire they find themselves in now. Praying in your home, sure, if you pray in your home with your family, that's beautiful and that's good, but that's not the Jama'ah. The Jama'ah is families coming together, you know, and it doesn't always have to be the mosque because we're in America. We don't have the mosques on every corner like we do in other countries. And I hear there they keep them locked up. They're not necessarily open for prayer, which is crazy. Here, you kind of understand it. You know, but I know there's some communities have tried where their masjids are open, but very few people come because I don't think it's emphasized in the khutbahs. It's not, you know, it's just the ones who know and they come. So that is to me the missing piece. It really is. I think if people started to do that, it would be a force, the spiritual currency, the blessings. Like there's a hadith about it. You know, how many, if there's 2 people, there's 3 people, there's 4 people. If you get 10 people, you couldn't even count how many blessings there were. And we had a lot. You know, our business was going well. Everything was just clicking on all cylinders, you know. But Shaitan stays busy. It's a struggle. It really is, you know. And if you end up with just a few for a while, inshallah, it's just for a while. And then some other people come, or the people who couldn't or can't or don't want to come back because they realize, wait a minute, you know, I'm getting picked off here. Something's missing here. It's not, I need my children to see this, not just with us. They need to see it with others, and they need, you know, my wife would like, you know, maybe they can all help cook or whatever. So it is the missing piece. I mean, it really is the lost sunnah.
They wouldn't let Hussein's men drink, and now they will not let you think. They bar them from a river clear. They bar you from a knowledge dear. They fence your mind with bigotry and tie your hands with apathy. Why should a Muslim not feel pain? Hussein, 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 Hussein. I've seen a lot of moduluses, but nothing. There's two people that do modulus that I've never seen like their likes before, and that's Sayyid Murtada Kazwini and Sayyid Masum Abadi. Those people take you to Karbala. The first time, it almost drove me insane, literally, MashaAllah. Like I told you, my admiration for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi was that of the Great Spirit, MashaAllah. I didn't believe that you said Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh in salat for nothing. MashaAllah. I believe that his spirit is vast. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. To see his progeny slaughtered like that, that broke my heart. It changed me forever. Allah, Allah, Allah. It changed me forever. Allah, Allah, Allah. And unlike a whole lot of people, I was sad for about a year, MashaAllah. But then I became angry. And then after I became angry, I became determined. Because I had to recognize this. That happened then. And although I regret that I was not there for you, Ya Sayyid, MashaAllah, Ya Sayyidi, MashaAllah, I could not be. Maybe I was. Maybe my spirit was there for you. But now that Allah has placed me here, what am I supposed to do? Yazid became the Muslims' head. Why wasn't the head Hussein instead? Did not Ahmad teach Allah's will? Then why are Muslims confused still? Who's Abraham and who's Nimrod? Who's with Satan? Who's with God? Is not the truth both clear and plain? Hussein, 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 Hussein.
I know at least 6 people who were Sunni who listened to the murder of Imam Hussain and who've since become followers of Ahlulbayt, because they knew about Karbala. They were upset about it, or they didn't appreciate it, but they didn't know who he was really. They didn't know how important that was. The people who stayed, the sacrifices, they know the sacrifices, but they didn't know how deep the sacrifices went, how without Hussein that Islam proper would have been totally destroyed. We still have a lot of craziness, but there's still the truth here, that there would be none. We'd have all just total, I don't know what we'd have, Islam-ish kind of thing. Zainab, for a lot of women, the modern woman, the feminists, they love Zainab. Oh my God, are you serious? This is a Muslim woman? I said, yes, it was. It's just the way he does it. I know a lot of even the ones who knew about it when it first came out. I think it was in Dearborn. A lot of the young brothers, young teenagers, and they loved it. They would just recite it. The parents saying they're singing "Why We Cry" and just wanting to play it over and over and over again. So it's really had an impact on a lot of people who hear it.
It's not a maktul. That's the whole thing. Everybody thinks it's a maktul. It's not a maktul. It's a book. MashaAllah. It's a narrative. It's not like a song at all. MashaAllah. If you read it, you'll see it's not a song. MashaAllah. It tells the story. Only the story is all in rhyme.
Which part of the story do you feel most connected with?
Connected with? You mean which ones that I like the best?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the whole thing. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I think the one that I liked the best was the story of Ali Akbar, the story of Abbas, in the explanation after the story of Abbas. MashaAllah. Those are the ones that it was almost like I was feeling the presence of those people. I was crying all the way through it. Oh, MashaAllah. It was really something. I remember it to this day. MashaAllah. That was deep.
One that pops in my mind because I'm a birth worker, I'm a doula and do some midwifery work, was of course Ali Asghar, you know, the baby. And I remember reading the book in the room and I'm just like, tears just falling down. Why did they shoot a baby? You know, 6 months old, he even lays the baby down on the ground. It's not, if you think it's for me, you take the baby, give him water and bring him back to me. It's not me, I don't want any of it. And they shot him in the neck with an arrow, you know. That was the one. And then everything else, just the fact of his sons and they're willing to die, the nephew and willing to die, and then afterwards, of course, Zainab, what the women had to go through, and then Sakina, and then her being so strong to stand up against Yazid, and you know, shut him up. You know, I think his wife also, the fact that she, just like with Pharaoh's wife, Asiya. So the whole thing was just overwhelming, and I mean, it was just, and of course, Tears and Tributes was just, you know, it just pulls on your heartstrings, just the way he writes and stuff. Even though the English is a little iffy, it doesn't matter. You just were taken there. In fact, when I got here to California, and we didn't have any masjid yet. We were mostly with the Warfdeen Masjid. They let us use it for the Muharram, and that was my first Muharram. And they had some Afghani brothers doing the majlis in Farsi, but this guy's voice, just the way I don't know the tenor of his voice, I could feel it. And I remember we had it the first time, and I didn't really feel it. You know, I know you're supposed to, you know, still cover and pretend. So I begged Allah, you know, Allah, please, I want to really feel this in my heart. I want to cry for real. I want to feel, I want to be there. So the next year when we had Masjid Imam Ali that was bought, it was a church and renovated, they had it, and I brought that book, Tears and Tribute. And so they're singing in Arabic, you know, and everybody's in Arabic, and I'm reading in English. And Allah made it so that what he was talking, because I could hear the names, the boss, you know, I was on the same page with this Tears and Tributes, you know. So it was just following the narrative, and I'm reading in English, and oh my God, I think I blubbered more than anybody else in there. It was crazy, and I couldn't stop. It was all day. It was just weepy. So even, you know, I just couldn't stop. So ever since then, it's easy, you know, to just concentrate and get into it. Or even when explain to someone who doesn't understand, I just found myself getting choked up. So alhamdulillah, you know, I could say that I actually can go there when I want to. But Allah took me there. I remember just, you know, they take the abaya, the Iraqis, they take the abaya, they put over. So I'm here in the dark now. And then but I have my little, you know, flashlight thing. So I'm reading, and I just seemed like I was there. I mean, I could just picture the scene. And of course, the women in the background starting to wail as it gets to the part when I forgot that fool's name. Who's the one that cut off his head? Shimmer. I wish something. That part, the women started wailing, you know, going up, and so I lost it. It was done, because it was exactly as he was saying it, and it hasn't happened since. I still bring my book and read it, and it's often up, but I'm also beginning to hear it now that it's been, you know, 20 years. I can kind of keep with it. But that first experience was absolutely profound. Absolutely, I would love to be there now for to go to Iraq during that time, or to make ziyarah. That's my next plan, inshallah.
Why do we let vile demons lead and close our eyes when martyrs bleed? Oh, what a sad, sad thought to bear. The Muslims think that foul is fair. How sad to let the Satan rule and let themselves be Satan's too. Did Prophet's grandson die in vain? Hussein, 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 Hussein. Our biggest problem is that we always see is the end of the story. MashaAllah. How about the beginning and the middle of the story? What happened every single day in these people's lives? MashaAllah. The answer, of course, is obvious, isn't it? They prayed. MashaAllah. They swam around in this Quran, MashaAllah. They could see the divine guidance. They were in tune to the spirit of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam. They lived that every single day, looking forward to meeting them. So when you stop to think of somebody like Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam and Ali Akbar alayhi salam, because he wasn't at his full potential yet. If he had lived, he probably would have been greater than Abbas. MashaAllah. I'm talking about as a fighter. MashaAllah. As it was, he put a hurt on them that is unprecedented. MashaAllah. So, that kind of loyalty and insight while I was writing it, made a huge impression upon me. MashaAllah. It's, the thing of it is that what freaks me out is that I'm stuck in this situation without a chance. We all are. The mystic vision pierces time, so view this vile, oppressive crime. Usurpers don't bow willingly. Observe Hussein, observe Ali. Look at these modern Yazids now. They cling to power's golden cow. Satan rules with cruel disdain. Hussein, 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 Hussein. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised, to seek help. How does it say it? You remember how Allah says to seek help? To seek help in salah and sabr. But it is hard, except for whom? Except for those who are humble. What does that mean? I believe by humble, what it means is that you intrinsically and intuitively and intellectually simultaneously know that you need Allah and He does not need you. What you do is because it's MashaAllah, period. You take it. I didn't do it. I did this and I did that. But you need to sit down somewhere. Allah, Allahu wahdahu la sharika, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have just like that. No thought whatsoever. You don't have to be able to think, period. MashaAllah, seriously. And I've seen people like this. I mean, they can't understand the prayer of our Holy Father Ibrahim. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mamaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. MashaAllah. That don't even understand the salah part, let alone the nusuki part. Surely my prayer and my sacrifice. What do you have to sacrifice? MashaAllah. You have to sacrifice your materialism. MashaAllah. You have to. You have to sacrifice that. You have to sacrifice your militarism. You have to sacrifice your egotism. You have to sacrifice your ethnocentricity. All that has to go. Why? Because it simply says that you are supposed to submit to the God. MashaAllah. Then you can do unto others as you would have others do unto you. What did Jesus say are the two great commandments? This is part of Christianity. The two great commandments. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart and thy whole mind and thy whole soul. And the second is like unto the first. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. MashaAllah. How are you going to do that without submitting to God, really? Because my interests will get in the way of my religiosity. You see what I'm saying? These Yazids kill for crown and purse. At least Muslims could spit it and curse. But many think the cost too high, so they obey the one who lies. They would not allow Hussein a drink, and now they won't let Muslims think, and those who think they call insane. Hussein, 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 Hussein. The world's a Karbala, a desert dry, and Quran's a river flowing by, and Ishtihad's a water skin that's cool and filled for thirsty men. Where is Abbas with what we need? His canteen was pierced by shafts of greed. Our thirst is not from lack of rain. Hussein, 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 Hussein. Though martyrdom gave Abbas wings, thirst remains and grief still stings, but tears alone won't slake our thirst. Tears by themselves can make things worse. Who will stand? Who will cry? To speak the truth, to stand, to die, to cause a tyrant's moon to wane. Hussein, 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 Hussein.